Once upon a time, it was Christmas Eve at Luke and Nora's house. It was the day before the most exciting day of the year, and they could feel the magic throughout the house. They were so excited and having such a good time, but then it was time for bed. So they both got into bed, and they both just sat there waiting with anticipation because they couldn't wait for the next morning when it was going to be Christmas morning. And so they were sitting there just watching their clocks as the seconds and the minutes ticked by, and they could not fall asleep. So then Luke got out of his bed and just decided to quick head over to the bathroom. But on his way there, he bumped into Nora. Nora was doing the same thing. Neither one of them could sleep. And Nora was like, "Luke, can you not sleep?" And Luke was like, No, I can't sleep at all. And as they were standing out in the hallway, they heard a noise coming from downstairs in the living room, right down by where the Christmas tree was. So they both tiptoed over to the edge of the stairs, and they looked down around the corner, and they couldn't believe who they saw in the living room. It looked like it was Santa Claus, right down there by their Christmas tree. He had a great big sack with him, and he was pulling out presents and putting them under the tree. They both gasped. And then Santa stopped because he heard the noise. He turned his head and looked at them and jumped with surprise.
Well, hello, Luke and Nora. Aren't you two supposed to be in bed right now?
And Nora was like, "Hi, Santa." "Yeah, probably." And Santa said,
Well, hurry on off to bed, kids. The sooner you fall asleep, the sooner you can wake up, and it'll be Christmas morning and you can open these presents.
And so they both said, "Okay." Then they quick ran up and gave Santa a hug, and Santa went,
Ho, 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 ho. Good night, kids.
and then they ran off to bed. They fell fast asleep. The next morning, after opening up all their Christmas presents, their dad said, "Hey kids, what's this in the corner?" There was one small box in the corner, and there was a tag on it. It was made out to both Luke and Nora. And it wasn't from their parents. Neither of them even knew what it was. And so their dad said, "Well, kids, I guess you better open this up." And so they opened the box together, and they found two very old-looking keys in the box. And there was a message that said,
You gave me quite a scare last night, kids. Ho, 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 ho. But I'm glad I got to see you for a moment. Inside this box, you'll find two very special keys. One will allow you to make new discoveries, and the other will protect you from danger. From you know who.
And Luke and Nora couldn't believe it. They both grabbed one of the keys, and they ran all over the house trying to find every keyhole they could. They tried to open things and unlock things, but neither one of the keys would do anything. They wouldn't even fit inside any of the keyholes. And like, okay, well, not really sure what these keys are for, but maybe someday they'll be useful for something. So they both put each of their keys in their pockets and just went on with their day. Later that day, they were both playing in the backyard with their dog, Ollie, and it had snowed a lot the night before, so there was snow everywhere. And Ollie started digging around in the snow, and he found what looked like a hatch in the ground. And on top of the hatch, there was a little keyhole. And as soon as Luke and Nora saw this, they remembered their keys that were in their pocket. So Luke took out his key, and he stuck it in the keyhole and turned it, and he heard a click as the door unlocked. So Luke slowly pulled open the door. It was really heavy. And when he pulled it all the way open, both kids looked down and saw a deep hole in the ground. It was so deep they couldn't even see the bottom, but what they did see was a ladder at the very top that led down the hole wherever it went. And so Luke and Nora both thought to themselves, well, we can't just not explore this. We got to see what's down there, don't we? So that's exactly what they did, one after the other. Both kids got on the ladder, and then rung after rung, They put their feet down and climbed all the way to the bottom, and it went down a long ways. It probably went like 30 or 40 feet. And when they finally got to the bottom, they could feel their feet touch the hard ground. It was so dark they couldn't hardly see anything, but they did notice it looked like there was a tunnel that went to something, because there was some kind of light shining way off in the distance. So the kids started walking down that hallway, and they kept walking and walking, and then they finally reached that light at the end of the tunnel. They got to a big open cave, a huge cave. And this cave was full of treasure. Every kind of treasure you could imagine. There were golden and silver coins. There were jewels and diamonds and rubies and emeralds, and on it went. They had never even heard of so much treasure in one place, let alone actually seen it with their own eyes. And they just couldn't even believe what they were looking at. What is this place? Has this all been hidden underground in our backyard all these years? And so they ran all over the cave, digging in the treasure to try to see what they could find. And Nora found a really interesting looking necklace with a great big pink diamond at the end of it. And Luke found a really cool looking sword. He picked up that sword and swung it around, and then all of a sudden a bolt of lightning blasted out of the end. Luke flew back in surprise. He couldn't believe what just happened. And then Nora ran over and said, "Luke, what was that? Is this sword magical or something?" And Luke said, "I think it must be, Nora. I don't know what that was." And then all of a sudden they heard a voice coming from the corner of the cave.
"Who are you kids, and what are you doing here?"
It was an old bearded man who kind of looked like Santa, but he looked a lot more mean and angry, and he had dirty clothes and a darker beard. And Nora said, "Hello, sir. We just discovered this hatch in our backyard and came down here and found all this treasure. Who are you?"
"My name is Cornelius, and I am the protector of the treasure. And I think we both know that you're not supposed to be down here, and anyone who tries to steal my treasure has to pay the price."
Nora said, "Come on, Luke, let's go." But the man said,
"Oh, I don't think so. You're not going anywhere."
"But you can't keep us down here, Cornelius. It's Christmas morning. We're supposed to be with our family right now. If you keep us down here, our parents are going to wonder where we are."
"Christmas? Oh, that's not my favorite holiday of the year. My brother thinks he's so special getting to deliver presents all over the world to children at Christmas. He thinks he's better than me, but one of these days I'm gonna show him."
"You mean you're Santa's brother?"
"That's right. He chose to be a nice guy when he grew up, and now he gives away stuff all over the world. But I chose to find my own treasure, and this is where I keep it. And it's mine, and nobody else can take it."
And as he was talking, Luke and Nora looked at each other, and they could both tell they knew what they had to do. They had to run while he was distracted and talking so much. So they took off running.
He said, "What? Get back here, kids."
He turned around to get him, but Luke and Nora were too fast. They were sprinting down that tunnel as fast as they could, all the way back to the ladder. Nora had her necklace, and Luke had his sword, and they were running and running and running. And luckily, they were a lot faster than that mean old man. And they got all the way to the ladder, and they climbed up to the top, but the door was shut. Luke kept trying to push it open, and Nora tried to push it too, but they couldn't do it. It was too heavy. Was it locked? It was locked. They could see a keyhole, and it was clearly locked. This thing was stuck. Luke pulled out his key and tried to put it in the keyhole, and he turned it, but nothing happened. The key didn't work. And all the while, they could hear the footsteps of that mean old man as he was getting closer and closer. "We gotta get this door open!" And as Cornelius got closer, they could hear him say,
"You can pound and pound on that door all you want, but you kids ain't getting out because you don't have the key. There's only one person in this world that has that key, and if you don't have that key, then you're not going nowhere."
But then Nora remembered she had a key too. So she said, "Hang on, Luke, hang on." She pulled out her key, and she put it in the keyhole and turned it, and it clicked. And just like that, they could push that door open, and they jumped out of the hatch, and then they slammed that door, and Luke put his key back in the keyhole and turned it and locked it tight. And as soon as it clicked, they could hear Cornelius screaming, "No!" Luke and Nora let out a big sigh of relief. They were so glad that they were out of that cave and that Cornelius couldn't get them. At least, that was what they thought. After that door was locked, Cornelius had climbed to the top of the ladder and he listened as Luke and Nora ran away with the sword and the necklace. And he started laughing to himself. Luke and Nora didn't realize that there were some very evil powers in the sword and in the necklace. And it wouldn't be long until they found that out for themselves the next day. But that's a story for another day.